Sheikh Abdullah Abdi, please welcome Bona Chairman.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll be very, very brief. Looking at the clock, it is now 20 minutes to 6. The subject matter on which we have been invited to discuss is a very heavy one. I don't know whether we can do justice, but since we have come here, we have to try to see what we can do. I'm not an expert in terms of these emergencies, this particular type of emergencies, but I have the opportunity and the privilege of having talked to my brother, Abbas Gulet, who does not read introduction in this country, a person who is well versed with the subject matter we are discussing about today. He was in Tanzania. I requested him, please, if he could make himself available today. And we are very, very grateful he has made it to Kenya and is here right now. He also has got a commitment after Maghrib prayers because he has got some commitment to iftar at home, so he wants to leave. So I don't want to waste time. Mine is to request my brother Abbas, please take charge. We ask you to lead us in the whole process to the end. Also give us your professional experience and knowledge in terms of this matter. Thank you very much and welcome.
So I would say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As has been said, time is not on our side. As Brother Abdullah said, this will not do us justice in terms of the weight of this matter that needs to be discussed. So I think we'll be just probably touching the surface of this matter because it's a huge subject matter, and I think we can spend days and days. We can spend many hours, but I don't think that's the intention. So I want to first of all thank him. He took me hostage. He called me the other day, last week, telling me that if I would come to a meeting, I wasn't aware that I'm supposed to chair any session or lead any session. And he's rightly said that I was actually aware and I came back specifically for this matter. But the only thing I'd ask him was, have you invited Aisha Mohammed, because he's the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross. I am a retired person. I have been out of limelight for the last 3 years, deliberately so as not to conflict and not to take a role that is not mine. So as he writes here that I'm a humanitarian, indeed which I am, but that's beside the point. So we're here to discuss on this very heavy matter. And I would have given some introductory remarks, but because of time, I would rather have the panelists to discuss these issues. And then I might give my personal views, which are personal to me from my experience. Because as my brother Hared, and I'd like to congratulate him for the appointment of being the director of NDMA, I was laughing to myself. And it's not in any way to not understand the importance of what you have presented, because that's the reality today. But one can look at 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and we'll be in the same place, the same statistics, same figures. That might be some slight change. Today, 10 years ago, there's county government, and I didn't hear much about county government. Everyone looks only to central government for everything, but one wonders, what do county government do with the resources that they have? But that's beside the point. So Aisha, thank you for being here in good time at the start of this. So we just probably want to hear a few words from you. The role of Kenya Red Cross, which is the largest humanitarian actor in this country. You have been on the forefront in trying to respond to the various counties in this country. So we've just had a good presentation from NDMA, and we'll just be happy to hear your views and your understanding of the current situation now.
Please. Apologies. We maybe a bus came with from a drought discussion, but I think that is really the reality of what, because as we know, in some of the counties, but more important, yes, they're actually counting the impact. So we are counting from 2019, when we had some very serious floods in some parts of the country, which washed away a lot of agricultural land that was existing at that point in time and displacing a lot of people, hundreds of thousands. And these are already still in those displaced situations and have not been able to go back even to farm their land because the waters have not receded, especially even contributed by the backflow from Lake Victoria at that point in time and some of the other lakes. But then came 2020 when we got our first case of COVID in March. And we know the impact that COVID has had also on families being able to put food on their table because of loss of jobs. And then now again, the failed rains the last 3 seasons, compounding an already very bad situation. So it is quite a dire situation from where we sit. And we have seen how the numbers have been increasing. I think by December, we were talking about 2.8 million people affected. Came around January, February, then it's now 3.1, but now we are talking about 3.5 million. So if this situation continues as it is, then of course we see these numbers continuing. Another compounding issue, of course, is the conflicts, that in some of these same counties, there is also conflict, which is again impacting on the situation. So I think there is a multiple scenario here that we need to look at, but the bottom line is people need humanitarian assistance, first and foremost for immediate food, but also a very big priority which you see on the ground is water. So as a society that is enacted through an Act of Parliament, Cap 256 of the laws of Kenya, the auxiliary to both national and county government, we have continued to play our role to respond to this situation. But more importantly, I think also trying to anticipate and trying to call for action. And this is, I think, one of the issues I hope we can address today, that we do not have to wait until we have millions of people in need, because we have good science these days, we have enough data, we have good information that already tells us that the situation is not going to be good. And so what can we do to ensure that people do not fall in this bracket? So we have continued to to give food in kind in many of these counties. And I'm sure my brother here from NDMA has given you the numbers of the counties that have been affected and those that are even more affected. And we are told that 7 counties in particular are in an alarm phase. So this is quite worrying. And within this, of course, a big concern is the number of children that are continuing to be malnourished and therefore need some very urgent assistance. So apart from food in kind, we are also heavily investing in cash transfer programs, because we have seen over time as a society that this is one of the best ways to actually respond to some of these situations. First and foremost, it gives dignity to the people, that we do not have to have people queuing up for sacks of maize and beans, that they're able to get money directly to their phones, and they're able also, again, to make choices. Traditionally, when we give food, then we are giving a blanket recipe in all the counties, but we know that different communities prefer to eat different kinds of food. And so with cash transfer, then they're able to make those choices. But also, more importantly, we've seen also in some of them that they have used some of this money, apart from food, is also to also start some small-scale livelihood activities which can help to sustain them. So we definitely advocate for more and more cash programming. The issue of water, as I mentioned, this is really a big issue. As a society, for the immediate, we had identified about 57 boreholes that need just rehabilitation. They are not even new ones, but rehabilitation, which could make a big difference. So far, with the little resource that we have been able to receive from our partners, we've been able to rehabilitate 15 of them, and we're still talking to a few more partners to see if we can get some more resources. These are not too expensive, I would say, in that sense, but they make a huge difference because it's about either, repairing some of the broken parts, but for some of them, it's even just to put some solar panels. Luckily, in a lot of these counties, we are not short of sunshine or sunlight, and this is really important because many of them are running on diesel engines, which are breaking down because of now being overused, because they are running 24/7. So water is a key priority. We know the government and county governments have done water tracking here and there, but we know it's not sustainable, and it's also very expensive to do water tracking. The other intervention from the Kenya Red Cross side has really been on the nutrition side, and this is where we work very closely with UNICEF to ensure that many of the children that are malnourished are getting this special supplementary feeding to be able to get out of that situation. And then finally, there's the question of health. In many of these places, people are not also able to reach the health facilities because they are also long distance. So doing mobile health outreaches is also something that is very critical. Maybe as I finish, I would just want to also say that one of the issues, of course, that preoccupies us is not just the immediate food and water, but some of the underlying impacts that we don't seem to be talking a lot about. So one of the issues for us is sexual and gender-based violence, which is a bit silent, but we see this increasing on the ground because women and girls are continuing to be disproportionately affected. They have to trek long distances to actually go and fetch water. And I'll give a very quick example. I was in Kitui a few weeks back and had some stories from some women that 40 kilometers to fetch water, it means the woman has to leave home at 11, for example, this morning, and comes back tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we can ask ourselves, all these hours, where is she? And what can happen to her on the way? And how much water can she bring back through that whole distance? We have seen girls that have had to be taken out of school in some of the counties to be married off early so that their families can be able to replenish the livestock that has been lost because of the drought. I have one sad case that my colleague Swada here knows, brings me to tears all the time, is when I found a #1 student in one of the schools that is in the counties affected by drought, taken out of school to be married off for 4 cows. Because that's all the family wanted from the so-called husband. This is somebody's life that actually is cut off. But this is only one that we know. How many others are out there? And then finally, education. Now schools are opening. How many of the boarding schools in these counties will be able to keep the students in class when they are not able to provide food for them? So I think as an organization, I would say these are some of the areas we have been involved in, but of course also trying to advocate on behalf of the people that are affected to see whether, as a community, as a nation, and even in the region, because this issue affects the Horn of Africa as a whole, that we can be able to find the necessary assistance for these communities. So shukran Abbas, and happy to...
Okay, so thank you very much, Asha. I gave Asha a little bit more time, it was more generous, but I'm not going to be generous with the rest of you guys, and I'm very sorry for that because of her size of her organization. But please, there are 6 other speakers, and we have Maghrib on the way, so if we could take 2 to 3 minutes, whatever has been said, please don't repeat. Let's just come with new things that you may have. So I will start with Guled Simba, my brother. Oh my God, Deputy Governor.
Thank you very much. I will also make it very brief because she has basically covered the areas that I think was also of concern to us. But what I want just to add is to say that drought is a contextual issue. It is not just about climate change. It is not just about rain failing, because the areas that repeatedly we see and hear about being affected by the drought are areas that are also historically marginalized. I mean, the infrastructure is very poor. Water services are very low. So this is coupled now with these emergencies is really causing a big issue. And then in addition to that, remember in September last year, the president declared drought a national emergency. And we had hoped, therefore, consequent to that, that the international partners will also come on board. We were together with my sister Aisha, I remember, when we appealed. Unfortunately, the following day, the president really indeed declared. But the response has been so far very low. And it has a reason. The reason is, back in 2014, there was the rebasing of our economy took Kenya from low income to middle income country. And the decision we made so proudly now has become a thorny stone to the people of northern Kenya, because many of including the United Nations, now are saying they are unable to raise money internationally. And the little money that the president committed and the county governments, be also fair to them, they did something, maybe not much, but there was a lot of water tracking happening. And this is very costly, because we tried as FCDC to do water tracking. And with about 32 million shillings that we wanted to put in, we could not go beyond 2 weeks. So you can imagine how much is required across 65% of Kenya's landmass, and the situation all over is almost the same. So I think what we need to do, from where I sit, is, and unfortunately most of the people affected are Muslims. And fortunately today I really want to thank the Jamia Mosque Committee that you have taken this initiative. I think we need to look inward. Instead of waiting for support from outside, let us reflect and today come out with a resolution that the Muslims should stand for the Muslims. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simba, for being very precise and concise, and also with the proposal there. So from there, then I would go to Dr. Bashir, who is well known to all of us, now representing a for inclusive insurance and development aid.
Thank you very much. Because of that title, I shall talk about insurance. Just two things to add. One, I think it's about time we considered new models. Droughts are there, have been there. We see that they're moving from, in our lifetime, moved from 6-7 years down to 3 years in terms of the spaces between droughts. We see consecutive years of poor rain or no rain, and then 1 year of rain, and so on. So, you know, the cyclical nature is becoming more tighter and tighter, and I wonder if we'll reach a point where we'll have almost a drought every other year. And so this is a situation that is building. We need to, you know, think around new models that can help society manage livelihoods better. I think, I don't know who defined madness as doing the same thing again and again and expecting a new outcome or new result. So we are doing the last, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000 years, we're doing exactly the same thing, the same way that our great-great-grandfathers were herding animals, we are herding the same animals the same way, with no better value, with no improvement in the way those animals are used and commercialized. So why not look at things like, you know, adopt a camel, give every family one camel to feed at home, and you know, change it when it is not lactating, and get a new camel that replaces. In any case, families that are moving around with big herds get less than the value of one camel that's well fed and well treated. So I think we need to think about new models, or adopt a few goats, or something like that. The other thing that I want to add is, better, more efficient use of resources. 4.9 million that the managing director, Colonel, presented now. And I was just calculating a little bit how many goats that can insure. And my numbers show me 3.7 million shots can be insured with 4.9 million. And so perhaps resources could be used better in a more efficient way using other models than water tracking and so on. I'm not discounting, for example, off-taking and purchasing emaciated animals and maybe slaughtering those and so on. But I think resources could be used more efficiently in looking at other models such as insurance.
But Bashir, just to interject, what are you guys doing to move with this? Because this also has been talked for ages about insurance. Why is there no up? What is the reason people will not be convinced using the ulamas, whether it's in Kajiado, it's convincing people, pay a shilling for, I don't know how many animals you want to say 4.5 million, you can insure close to, I don't know, a million or few millions, then what is holding us back from happening?
I think for the private sector, the biggest problem is the fact that the market is disaggregated and the transaction cost is high. Generally, industry managers are measured on a monthly, quarterly basis in terms of the bottom line. So no manager will keep his job if he has to run around and try to, build up critical mass. That, I think, is the bottleneck. Most underwriters are willing to insure aggregated stock. But, what does it take to aggregate them? That's where the problem is. I don't think the industry is averse to carrying this.
Well, we can come back to this discussion. As I said, maybe time is not on our side in this particular case. But I'll come to Sheikh Abdullah towards the end because he will also come back. But I'd like to go to Sheikh Al-Hajj Hassan Al-Nadu, Chairman of SUPChem, maybe first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was a little bit excited that I'll be jammed because of the time, especially now that the subject actually have been dealt with the people who understand the subject matter. But however, I think from where I see it also is that this particular discussion, there is need for us to change. I really agree with the Dr. We can't continue doing the same. Because what we are basically doing now is firefighting. We are trying to arrest the situation, which is getting worse. But in other normal, when rain comes, we are going to forget. Because human beings, by nature, we are forgetful. And we go back to our normal lifestyle and forget the drought that is. I think this is an opportunity, in my view, that this kind of conversation should be held across the board, especially within the Muslim community, bearing in mind that the large part of these drought and stricken areas are actually Muslim. We have county government. Information that we get is that there is a lot of water underground in these areas.
Yes.
There's been mentioned areas like Upper Swain and other areas, northern parts of Marsabit, with a lot of water. And I think it is important that we really start that conversation, what we do. Because water is life. The first thing that we get, if we get water, almost a half of the problem that we are talking about, because a human being can survive, animals can survive with water. And I think for us to move forward, we need to think of how do we pull resources from county governments in the northern Kenya, northern part of the country, to ensure that we can actually initiate a program of having one big dam for the region as a starting point. And that would not be a difficult thing, because if the county government can come together, pool their resources, it would be very easy for institutions like the FCDC to support in terms of in fundraising, and also the national government to come into another institution like World Bank and others can actually basically come in. But what do we have in hand? Have we been able to do something? Do we have data ready and something to be done ready? If that is done, I think we can actually have somewhere to begin with. So to me, I think this is our conversation. We cannot run away.
Thank you. Jazakallah. So I would give the floor to Sheikh Isaji to talk to us, representing Jamia Mosque in the Abdi chair. As the vice chair, let him talk to us, then we come back.
Shukran, Al-Akh Abbas Gulid. That's not our area of expertise.
Yes.
As Jamia, we basically come in to coordinate and provide support. And I think in the past we have worked together with institutions and do our parts. And therefore, as Jamia, since this is not our area of expertise, for us is simply to commit to whatever action plan and strategy that's going to come forward to provide a long-term, sustainable solution to these areas. That's what's important. Long-term, sustainable solution.
Thank you for hosting us, or at least for convening or giving us the space, because this is also very crucial. So I'd now go to Sheikh Abdullah, who has actually pushed for this meeting and who comes from the same region we are talking about, but it's not the same region, I would say, because Kajiado has the same problem, Narok will have the same problem, Turkana, Baringo, Bomet, Marsabit, Yolo, all these areas. The 65% landmass you talked about. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, may I take the opportunity to thank the Jamia Mosque Committee for hosting us today and for having agreed that we meet here within a very, very short notice. We're very, very grateful for that. This meeting was called as a result of an emergency that was felt must be attended to. And I'm glad that the professionals in that field have already presented the case, and the case is well known. The presentation, which was beautiful from the NDMA and my sister from Red Cross, I think explains the situation. However, I want to move one stage beyond that. I'm not a professional to give those data and give the malnutrition rates and the death rates and the mortality rates. But I talk about realities of what I found. I've been to Marsabit 3 times in the last 2 months for different purposes. The situation is dire. I cannot talk about people dying because I've not seen people dying. I also come from Mandera, and I was sharing with my colleagues when I was outside there. 2-3 months ago, I used to get calls literally every day or every second day from relatives. And at that particular time, they were asking for money to buy grains, to buy maize to feed the animals. The last 2-3 weeks, they are saying the animals have died or are dying. We're no longer bothered about the animals. We're talking about saving human life. So it is that dangerous. When I sit and talk to you, I'm talking about my relatives, very close blood relatives who are on the edge of death. 3 days ago, I was summoned by the ulamas from Mandera County. They sat at Boma, they called me, and they were getting information from well-known, prominent Muslim ulamas from Mandera County. And they need a rapid assessment on their own way. Not the one of Kenya Red Cross or MDMA, but their own rapid assessment. They confirmed that there were 2 deaths of children. And they said a lot of these pastoralists are not people who are used to urban life. So they are so shy, they can't go out even ask for food. They'll just keep quiet, hoping somebody is going to come and pass by. Most of them who have lost their livestock have moved now and have started camping near the trading centers there. And they're waiting for something to be brought to them. So the situation is very, very bad. Fantastic proposals have been done, and I completely concur. We need to have long-term terms and address these issues. My position as of today, first of all, I think this is just a preparatory meeting. This is not a conclusive meeting. I think we need to have more meetings and much more bigger meetings to have more time to completely ventilate this matter and discuss it in great details. But my take is that we need to move urgently. We need to move urgently to save lives. I know and I have heard the government is doing something. Kenya Red Cross is doing something. But from what I gather, what is being presented now and what is being given is not enough for the need that's on the ground. So ours is what can we do to assist those people who are already on the field. There are definitely other players. Jamia said we are not experts in this field, but I can tell you they are just being humble. Jamia is collecting a lot of food and is giving to people even now, and I know that. They are doing this as part of the package of famine and as part of the package of Ramadan. So what we need is to expand this circle. And we have to send out the alarm. Probably later on I'll sit with my brother, the colonel, to tell me the difference between the emergency and the alarm. Because to me, we're already in the emergency stage. But you know, these are technical things which we need to get details. So brothers and sisters, mine is, I think we need to raise out the alarm. We need to support the government in terms of what they are doing, Kenya Red Cross with what it's doing, and more than that, expand. And this sensitivity, and we've talked about the majority of the people who are affected are Muslims. Not all of them are Muslims, but the majority are Muslims, and also the others are Kenyans, who are our brothers and sisters. We need to attend to them. So I need for us to sit down and strategize and how we can do to mobilize the country. And I'm glad the Kenya Red Cross family is here today. Abbas might have left, but still part of the family. We need your assistance, we need your guidance, we need the publicity. I can hear the journalists around here, from BBC, from KBC, from Horizon and all the rest. I don't know, but we need to strategize to make sure that this message goes out and goes out quickly, and we find a way that we can have a structure under which we can mobilize resources and help the people who are suffering. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah. So final one, I'll give it to a gentleman called Jamal Hassan, who recently has been to the field and his own observation. So it would be very good for him also to share all those experiences.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So firstly, I'd like to thank Jamia Masjid for the invitation and also our honourable guest. Will not repeat what the other honourable guests have said. Just to highlight, I've been on the ground a few times in the last 20 days. I just came back from Isiolo yesterday. Before that, I was in Mandela County, and day after tomorrow, I'll be going to Wajir County to distribute food for families for Ramadan packages. But our distribution, or my distribution, is not unique to only human beings. Let's just say Muslims, I give to even animals. And the situation is very dire on the ground. You know, when you see these things, it really does something to you. Our sister mentioned, you know, people walking for 40 kilometers. Some people barely could walk that. They walk 2 kilometers and they die. We're talking about gender-based violence. These are things that are happening on the ground. I would like to share maybe 1 or 2 quick stories that took place. One of the things I think is very, very important is to create awareness. We live in a digital world. Really, to create awareness, it needs to be done we need to attract more young people. Our brother, Dr. Hassan, mentioned, why don't you adopt a camel, for example? These are things that are possible because for decades we've been adopting orphans. We've been taking care of families. These are things that could really take place. Water rehabilitation. I've been to wells, I've been to boreholes that are dry. Literally, when our brother showed us the presentation, wallahi, I thought I took that picture because it's the same everywhere you go to. I was in a place in Banisa, and then, you know, it was Dhuhr, Asr came, and I hadn't prayed, right? So, and it was Maghrib was approaching. So I told one of the families, please, can I, you know, use some water to go to pray. And then the brother gave me water, which was literally maybe 100. It was so small, right? And it was red. So I had gone in, used the toilet to come out. Then I said to them, please, could you give me water to make wudu, because the prayer is going. And then the brother said to me, wallahi, this is all we have. This is all we have for the entire village. We don't have anything else. You know, for me, that did something to me. As our brother Simba mentioned, you do not need. You know, I've been in Kenya for 2 years, so I'm from the UK, right? And we cannot have the same problem every year in, year out. Really, something needs to be done. You know, drought is very different to other crises. It's as if it creeps on you. It comes in very slowly. By the time you realize there's a drought, is the damages that it leaves, it takes years to try and backtrack, right? And you know, for Muslims, I believe with the work that, you know, we should be doing for these people, help is within. Really, we're like the ATM machine. The money is already in you. The help is already in you. The expertise. Just look at the room. Look at everybody sitting here. You know, the most important or the best in the field. My thing that I will add, and I'll finish with this, is please use the social media or the digital platforms to create awareness, because what happens is a lack of education awareness. I was in Isiolo the other day. As soon as I came in, I received a call and I was told, when you reach Isiolo airport, do a U-turn and go back to Nairobi. I said, why? They said, last night, people from the other county came in, killed 25 camels, and then what happened this morning was the people from Isiolo went and killed 10 people from the neighboring county. Now, that stops me, for example, to able to help the people on the ground that are suffering, and all because of conflict that we're having. And with that, having said, inshallah, I'll pass it on to the next person. Assalamu alaikum.
Anyone among the sisters behind who have not spoken want to speak? We'll give you the mic. We have a few minutes out there, the ladies, and then we move on. But now I'll give it to Isaji. No. Okay. So, anyone among the young ladies want to, or the good ladies want to say anything? If not, we'll just move on. Yes, the mic will be given to you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fathia from BBC Nairobi. Okay, so I have been doing some of the drought stories from Nairobi, and I feel like one of the issues is we see this problem is really happening, but I really don't see a solution to it. The numbers are there, the statistics are there, we've been covering it, but I feel like it's time that we start looking at the solutions. One of the issues that Dr. Asha mentioned is the underlying impact of sexual and gender-based violence. And I feel like as Muslims, sometimes we don't really talk about this kind of issues that affect women. So is that something that we can also highlight? As a lady who works in media and, you know, as a Muslim, I feel like I have a platform to tell such kind of stories. So is it possible for your organizations to be able to talk to us and we are able to get down on the ground and do those stories instead of just doing all the sad stories every single day? That's my thank you.
But this will not be a sad story, you mean?
Yeah, no, I want a solution out of it. That's all I'm saying, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Names are Fawzia Ali Hassan. Syrian. I run Women Empowerment Organization. My take today is most of the things that I've said are beautiful. I can't add more, but what I will emphasize, because I am always on the ground working with women, unfortunately, or is it fortunate, most of the income in today's world are earned by women. Sorry for the gentleman.
Don't have to be sorry. Go ahead.
But again, these things when they happen. So what I always emphasize, most of the things that I've seen successful things do is empowering women. We have had programs to empower women, and these women are very successful, and these things have not been happening to them because we keep on following up with their situation. So if we can include that in our program, that will be very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess, sorry, you want to say anything? No. So, Honourable Deputy SG, do you want to say anything? No. Okay. So, I guess Abdullah will have Sheikh Abdullah will have the final word, but maybe I'll just say one or two things myself because of time. Like I was saying earlier, when Khaled presented, which I think is a straightforward, real situation of today, I was saying to myself, what is new? What have we not had before? And for how long are we going to be talking of the same thing over and over? And I said, I want to say this in my personal capacity. And it's not to be negative, but you know, droughts can be avoided, floods can be avoided, disasters can be dealt with, as long as those in responsible positions are willing to do something about it. The animal insurance is something that has been talked for about 10 years. I mean, even when I was in the Red Cross, there was a discussion with APN, with many others, with Swiss Re and with what have you. The question is, how do we stop talking and how do we start acting? When do we leave talking? When do we act? I would just say, Daktari, from my personal view, it would be even good to start in a pilot in one village, for example. And you choose a village and you say, for this community, in this village, in this county, whether it's in Turkana, in Baringo, in Garissa, or Tana River, you're willing to start something that we can see as a pilot. How does it work? Because we have to stop talking and start delivering on some of these things, even on trial basis, to see whether it works or not. The saddest thing for me is if I go to Mandera, and I know the geography of this country very well, with the river Dawa that may be 9 months functional and 3 months dry or seasonal, there's still plenty of water. And no one in that, along the belt of the entire Dawa, from Ethiopia all the way to Somalia, no one should be having water problem. If the water is harvested and if water is managed properly, Chairman. Even in Wajir, when we talk of underground water, but I wouldn't even want to touch underground. There is enough surface water when it rains that we are unable to harvest. Water disappears because we are not putting our priorities where they should be. We are not investing. Without fear of contradiction, I would just say, it's very easy to blame a central government on everything. And I don't work for government. I've never worked for one. But the county government, who were getting zero funding previous, now getting 10 billion, 9 billion, 7 billion. Where the heck is this money going? And why is there no real change in the lives of the ordinary people in these counties? Why should there be conflict between Isiolo and in Modogashe and Garissa? And why do politicians thrive on this conflict every year, year in, year out? Why are people being killed? Why is it in Marsabit there's a conflict between these two communities for generations? The late Mzee Haji and Ole Kaparo, and I hosted them. They had meetings in Boma Hotel. There were agreements. But politicians come every time there's about election, boom. Why are those politicians not being arrested and being locked in forever if they have to be? God forbid. Why is someone not willing to take action where they need to be taken? Why is the Ummah quiet? Sheikh Hassan, you as leader of Subkem, it's partly your responsibility, partly all our responsibility. But why should the Muslim Ummah be fighting? Why should even Muslim or non-Muslim be fighting over small-scale resources in Marsabit? Why? Why is it that the government is even fed up with them over there? I have to send the military? I wouldn't send the military, but I would just arrest the leaders, lock them up there. Because evidence is there if the government wants to really arrest those committing these atrocities year in, year out. In terms of resources, there's plenty of resources. But now I agree with other previous speakers. Today, 300 million, roughly, the entire continent of Africa faces food challenge. Not only in the Horn of Africa or Kenya, but the entire continent, about 300 million. Where is the money going to come from? It's going to come from UN agencies and donors? No. It will go to Ukraine because it's closer to home. It will not come here. Let's stop kidding one another. Charity begins at home. It's not going to come from Middle East to come here. It will not come. We have to face these challenges, reality. And I agree with the young men that we can raise the money. Alhamdulillah, we can all say, those of us in this room, I can sponsor 1 family, 2 families, 5 families, 10 families, 20 families to address their challenges now in this month of Ramadan, holy month, but even other months. Instead of adopting a camel, I can adopt a family for that. And if they need 10,000, what Asha was saying is what should be done. No more food aid. We are tired and sick and tired of food handouts. You are dehumanizing people by giving them food. Give them money. Let them go buy. Let the shops open up. Let the traders. And that's what I told President Kenyatta a number of years ago when I was Secretary General of the Red Cross. Enough of food handout. It's corruption at all levels. At all levels, corruption all the way. And the beneficiaries will not receive the amount of food intended to them. The transporter, the fuel company, the distributors, the administrators, everyone. And I'm not afraid to say that. It's in reality, it has been happening for years, donkey years. It's an institution in itself. We should stop food distribution in this country because it's demeaning to human beings. Give them cash. Let them go buy. Let the traders get things there. I can tell you Tangul Bay in Tangul Bay in Baringo County. Asman Kamamba, the MP, would tell you, food finds itself from there. Comes from Nyandarua. There, food is brought. Every market day, people go buy that food. You give them 5,000, 6,000 shillings. They don't need anything more. Kwisha. Kwa hivyo hii udanganyifu tunadanganyana kila siku, achane nayo. We find a way to help people. and help has to come. The Ummah has to come. Sheikh Abdullah, Hassan, all of you who are leaders in your own way, I think we would be willing to come in. But they need leadership. They need to be shown, here we can make a difference. So, with all those many words before Adhan, in me giving back to Sheikh Abdullah, is just to say that, as you say, this was an appetizer, this was a teaser. Hope you can have a bigger and better meeting and bring the technocrats, bring the businessmen, bring the working force. These young technocrats in this country, as the young man is saying, social media, internet, all this, this can be hyped. That charity begins at home. We must find solutions at home. If you're going to wait for solutions to come from outside, the world around us has changed completely. And Ukraine hasn't helped, not. So with those many words, I thank you for hosting us, for calling for this meeting, but I give it back to you to close it up for us.
Thanks so much, Bona Chairman, Mr. Dr. Abbas Gulait. And it's now my pleasure to welcome the NAMLF Chairperson, Sheikh Abdullah Abdi, to give us the call to action and the way forward after hearing what all of you in the room had to say. Of course, I'm sure with his wise counsel, he can give us a proper way forward and how do we move from here, inshallah, moving forward. Thank you. And before I welcome him, Karibuni sana, those are just but to break your fast, inshallah, when the Adhan find us here. Thereafter, inshallah, we will be guided by our able Deputy SG on how we proceed for iftar, as hosted by the Turkish Ambassador, Ahmed Semil Miroğlu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faisal. We have got barely 5 minutes to wind up. First, may I thank our host, Jamia Mosque, who have willingly given us this forum today to discuss this matter. I just want quickly to touch on what we have picked up today. Professional reports have been given in terms of the drought by NDMA and by Kenya Red Cross, which was quite educative and quite informative. We have taken note of that. We have also got reports from people on the ground that have physically been there. And our analysis and final conclusion for the day, there is a major need to address this issue immediately. And what was concluded is this a preparatory meeting, but it's not the major meeting. We are going to call for another meeting to discuss this matter with a much more bigger representation, bringing in technicians, professionals, businessmen, community leaders, religious leaders, and so on and so forth. It has been accepted that the situation is very, very bad and requires immediate attention. It has also been noted that this is not a new thing that has happened now. It's a phenomenon that has been going on for the last so many decades. And we repeat the same thing over and over again. So the recommendation of this meeting is that while we are looking for immediate response to the current situation to save lives, it's also very, very important for us to look for a long-term solution to address this thing holistically. It has also been noted that actually already there is some support which is going on the ground from the government of Kenya, from Kenya Red Cross, from other NGOs, Muslim organizations, and other individuals. However, this is not enough. What has been suggested is that we have to put our efforts together, mobilize the Kenyan community, and particularly the Muslim community for that matter, to make sure that food is made available immediately. And this requires immediate response. That will be, I think, announced during the next meeting, how it's going to be done, under what structure and what formula. But what is important is today, anybody who gets this message, to get the feeling, particularly for the Muslims. You don't go home in this evening and you have 6-7 dishes to satisfy yourself. Whereas probably tonight, there is a family that's going to drink water, breaking their fast and not having a meal. So this should prick our conscience and we should respond to it quickly. May I finally thank all of you who have turned up, and particularly my brother Abbas, who had to travel the way from Tanzania and come back here quickly to attend this thing, and all of you who have attended. And please, together with my brother who has put these things together, Assistant Deputy Secretary General of Jamia, my brother Hussein, will assist me, and quickly we are going to convene another meeting, and I hope that all of you are going to turn up together with the other people. With those, once again, thank you very, very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Bona Chairman, that is Sheikh Abdullah Abdi, as I had mentioned earlier, who said Abdi Nasser is going to give us the guide moving forward for the gents and for the ladies as well, inshallah. and of course extend the invitation once again for the iftar for those who are absent while we were starting the program. Hussein Abdi Nasser, please.
Assalamu alaikum once again. So thanks again for coming here. We're delighted to host you. And inshallah, again, honor us with your presence at the iftar being hosted by the Turkish ambassador. So we can just have the ile kufuturu ya kwanza, we can have it from here. And then after that, after the prayers, we can come and join the rest of the congregation. Thanks again. Ma'asalam.
Yes, for the gents, inshallah, we'll be guided by Brother Hussein, and then for the ladies, we'll introduce you to our Deputy Human Resource Manager from Jamia Mosque. Her name is Amaira Wabuleko, who will be joining us, inshallah, after we've broken off.